Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. Here we have part 2 of the developer blog, which goes over the matchmaker system's goals and long-term plans. And so let's just jump straight into things. Of course, if you love Overwatch 2 content, you love shooters, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and leave your comments down below as to what you feel about these current changes or upcoming changes. So TLDR, we're going to go into these, of course, and then we'll go into some detail with regarding the actual direction, and then we'll wrap things up with my hot take as to what I would like to see added in the near future. So TLDR, it says, your ranked games are formed based on your internal matchmaking MMR, which of course we already know, regardless of your displayed skill tier. MMR changes based on the result of each match with the amount of MMR you gain or lose depending on several factors like how highly rated your opponents were or how recently you last played. So all of these were a bit confusing for a lot of players, and these are things that I'm sure they're likely to change and hopefully give us more clarity on, because again, at the current time of this video and the current time of us playing Overwatch 2, it is very confusing. You're thrown into a game where you can either be a high ranked, let's say diamond player, but somehow there's a gold player in your lobby, or you're a top 500 player and somehow there's a master player in your lobby. This doesn't seem to make any sense. And that's likely because of these factors we're talking about. And so I'm thinking what they're trying to do now is to make it so that every single time that you're going into a ranked game, now it's going to look at your MMR in more detail, and it's going to likely average things out. So that way, when you go into a game, players now are not going to have this situation where they're running into, again, my examples earlier, a top 500 player running into a, let's say, a diamond player or a master player in their lobbies. Because again, we don't know, for example, how recently you last played is such a big one, because there are instances where, for example, I don't play for a couple days because I want to take a break, just for the sake of mental state, and I come back and I forget my whole rank. I forget that I'm like maybe 6-3 or 5-2. But then you come back to the game and that changes your MMR because of, again, it goes right back to your MMR and how recently you last played. So that also contributes to where you stand in terms of your ranking. So hopefully that's going to be changed as it states here, and that will be a positive thing. Next, our team is aware of some community pain points that with competitive and matchmaking. We have a set of improvements coming to matchmaking, and we're also working on updates to the competitive system, which is obvious. For competitive play in Season 3, we'll reduce the number of wins between competitive updates from 7 to 5 wins or 20 to 15 losses. This is really, really good. This is a positive. This is going to incentivize players to play the game, because now, instead of having to grind for 7 wins, 5 wins, it feels a lot more healthier. It seems like a great middle ground for players to dive in and play and still have the incentive to want to keep playing more. Now, while it might seem on paper that 7 to 5 is small, when you think about the long term of you playing, 5 wins is actually a lot faster. And so you're more, again, you're more incentivized to want to keep playing because you're going to see your rank a lot faster versus, 7, which feels more like a grind or a chore. So for our matchmaker, we're implementing role delta changes that will match similarly ranked players within each role. Season 4 will include additional information about your current wins and losses on the competitive update screens. These right here, my friend, is very important. This is a really big one because, as you've already known, a lot of streamers, including myself, we always have our win-loss counter manually implemented into the stream, and we have to constantly do that on the fly. And it can sometimes be an annoyance because you're having to do it manually every single time, which can slow you down. And you'll oftentimes forget, like I said, this goes right back to the first point about how recently you last played. Let's say you take some time off and you come back and you don't remember where you last stood in terms of your ranking performance. Now in Season 4, what they're going to do is implement a new UI mechanic, I'm guessing, where you're now able to see your wins and losses on the competitive update screen, which is fantastic because now giving us a visual cue as to how we're performing is so much better. And again, it'll incentivize us to keep playing. Our team has begun work on longer-term updates and features for both the matchmaker and competitive game mode, and we look forward to sharing more on these plans in the future. So that's great. This is great. So let's see here. Let's go into some of the paragraphs here, and then I want to move into the actual direction they're taking, because the direction that they're taking, I think, is more important. Because again, it is a roadmap and giving us a good indicator of where we're going to be seeing ranked as far as its improvements. So let's look at the paragraphs here. Often matches are with a wide displayed skill tier difference still look very close when looking at the difference in MMR between the two teams. The partial rank reset at the beginning of the season may be exaggerating this by making it look like someone is lower than their actual rank. Very true. This is very, very misleading, and it oftentimes creates that, again, that frustration, as I mentioned earlier, where you're a top 500, but you're still up against a diamond player in your lobby, which is really, really annoying. However, regardless of the seasonal reset, both skill tier and MMR can decay over time for players who are inactive for a considerable amount of time, which is, again, something that can easily be an issue and that hopefully will be ironed out. Players who return may see dramatic shifts to their skill tiers as they resume playing regularly, and the game becomes more certain of that player's current skill. So this goes right back to that TLDR where they're talking about how recently you last played. So we've also seen community talk about inconsistent games or how some games feel incredibly one-sided. Yes, this is a really big issue here, and that feedback has been helpful. Understanding what causes one-sided matches and how to reduce their frequency has become a major area of focus for our team. This is a tricky problem because one-sided matches can happen in Overwatch, of course, it's obvious, even between balanced teams. Very true. So our first step has been to study the problem and understand the various factors that can cause one-sided matches, and we're planning to share what we learn with you in a developer blog down the road. Okay, that's pretty cool. So yeah, this is a huge proponent and a huge factor as to why a lot of players are annoyed. It's just because you're either rolling the other team or you're getting rolled. And that does happen sometimes in very balanced games, but I would say it's more the former than the latter, where it's a lot of times you're just feeling like the game is just not playable because the other team just seems to have like a substantial amount of advantage over you, and you just feel like this is not playable, this is not fun. So again, this does seem like a positive that they're trying to make changes to this, because if we consistently run into these problems long term, all the changes that they're trying to make for the game will still have an annoying factor, which is the one-sided matches, which can be, again, very daunting. But again, this is a positive that they're trying to implement, so hopefully it does work down the road. Now, the direction that we're taking, this is the one that I wanted to read here. So based on community feedback, we're implementing some updates to the matchmaker that try to place pairs of players with similar MMR on each role on either team. This means that opposing tanks should be more similarly matched than before, and likewise for the other respective roles. The goal of this change is to make the average MMR between each role more evenly matched to each other, instead of looking more broadly across the entire team to balance things out, which is great. So I think they're trying to kind of laser focus their way into this MMR average, so that way you're actually being paired up with someone who is on your level, as opposed to kind of looking at this open field of MMR numbers and then trying to kind of throw things in there and hopefully things will stick. That type of approach was not really working, and we can clearly see that. It's very glaring. It's a glaring issue right now in ranked. So I'm glad that they're trying to kind of make it more, they're trying to hone in on a very specific area to make it so that, for example, as they said, opposing tanks should be of similar match or of similar rank, which is good, because that's how it should feel. It shouldn't be like one tank is superior to the other tank. It should be that both tanks are on the average MMR level, and therefore the game should feel, for the most part, balanced. Sure, again, they've already stated that some games will feel one-sided, and that's okay, because there are going to be times where you as a tank are just, on a roll, you're in the zone, and vice versa. The other tank can just be in the zone and they just overpower you. You get outplayed. That's part of the game. That's part of the whole variable of Overwatch 2 and any competitive game. But I'm glad that they're trying to, again, make it so that it's very specific, so that therefore you are going to have a more consistent experience where you and the other tank or you and the other DPS players are going to be of the same or around the same MMR. Therefore, it's going to feel a lot more well-rounded. So this is a major change to the matchmaker, so we'll be actively monitoring for any unintended side effects. Of course, this is going to obviously bring about some error, I would imagine. So I'm glad that this is going to be part of their implementation. We've seen feedback that having to play as many as 26 matches to get an update has been discouraging for players. Yes. So with Season 3, you'll now get a competitive update with every 5 wins and 15 losses, which is fantastic. I think the 5 wins is a lot better. It's a lot faster, and it gives you more incentive to keep playing, which is really, really great. In the mid-season patch for Season 3, we're also updating the UI, so information about your progress toward a competitive update will always be viewable. Wonderful. Wonderful stuff. This is what I would like to see, because knowing what your progress is in-game is so much more valuable than you having to manually take note of it every single time. So once you log out and you go back to doing your personal life things, you come back a couple days later, at least you now know, okay, oh, I've logged back in. All right, I'm still 5-2, or oh, okay, I'm still 3-1. You know, that way you now know visually where you stand and what you have to do in order to get your rank up, which is great. So I'm glad they're doing this. This is really important. Knowing what your progress is so valuable in any game, because it gives you more of a, it gives you more detail, more in-depth detail, and also can provide the player with a somewhat of an analysis, like a self-analysis. Like, okay, oh, I'm 3-2. Okay, I need to improve upon myself and get better, you know. And having it in the game is so much better than having to manually do it. Also, beginning with our mid-season patch, top 500 players will see their top 500 leaderboard rank updated after every match rather than in competitive updates. So that's good for the top 500 players. Medal ranks is probably not that important, but yeah, I would imagine for the best of the best, seeing your leaderboard rank updated would be a positive. And so what we're doing in the future, near future, so we've heard your feedback and confusion around seasonal rank decay and rank resets. This is massive. This is really, really huge here. Starting with Season 4. So it's a ways away, but it's still a positive change in the right direction. With Season 4, we're planning to remove seasonal competitive rank resets and all current and past seasonal rank decay. That's really, really, really monumental here, because for the past 2 seasons, we've had this issue where players will often log into the game and they're going to have their moments where, again, as I said earlier, you log into like a Masters game and you have diamond players, or you log into a diamond game and you've got gold players. And that's because the rank icon you see is not indicative of your actual MMR ranking, which is what they're mentioning in the TLDR. So this is fantastic. This is what we really would like to see. Getting rid of the rank resets and all rank decay will now give people more incentive to keep playing ranked, because they now know, okay, I'm not going to see a diamond player in my Masters games. I'm not going to see a gold player in my diamond games. It's now going to feel a little bit more streamlined, and that's going to be paired up with the average MMR system they're trying to implement. So kudos. This is a good step in the right direction. Of course, I'm very happy with this change for Season 4. Again, it's a ways away, but once again, it is a step in the right direction, which is fantastic. We'll continue to build out competitive updates in Season 4 when we add information about your current wins and losses to the competitive update screens. We're hoping this additional context will help you better interpret changes to your skill tier and division in the update. So I'm assuming now in Season 4, I'm assuming that with the removal of rank decay and rank resets, that would mean that if you're gold in let's say Season 4, and you then go into Season 5, you're most likely going to remain in gold, I would imagine, right? Because you're not going to decay, right? So you're not going to go from, let's say, a gold 1 back down to, let's say, I don't know, bronze 5, or not bronze 5, but bronze 1 or something, because of the soft reset. So because there's no ranked reset, it means that wherever you were last placed in the previous season, that's where you'll continue from. So if you're a gold 5 in Season 4, you're going to go into season 5 with the same gold rank, and therefore you can continue progressing as you go. Granted, that's if you play consistently, and so we'll see what happens there. But if that's what they're trying to imply here, then that's a positive, and I'm very happy with that. That's good. Because players obviously want to see themselves ranking up. They never want to see themselves going rank down, right? It is kind of like a demoralizing feeling when you get like that reset, and it's like, oh damn, I gotta go right back up again. And sometimes it can take a long time, especially with that 7-win, implemented before. It felt more like a grind, like a really uphill battle. But now I think with this change being made, it'll make it feel a little less stressful and more fun to rank up. So let's see, long-term plans and goals. In long-term, we're planning to provide new ways for players to share a challenging and competitive experience in Overwatch 2. We'll share more on this down the road. That said, matchmaking improvements are an evergreen area of focus for the team, and we'll stay focused on testing and deploying continuous improvements to our matchmaking algorithm. Finally, we'll continue to watch for your feedback and improve upon the overall ranked experience over time. Our goal continues to be delivering matchmaking that feels fair and balanced for everyone. So golf claps here. This is monumental stuff. These changes I think are going to be impactful for the long term of Overwatch 2, thus making the ranking experience that much more fulfilling, that much more refreshing for not only players that are already continuously playing the game daily, but new players, because it's a free-to-play game. So I imagine that new players coming into the game from other respective shooters, they want to also rank up, and so the ranking experience should feel fun. It should feel invigorating. It should feel like you're improving. It should feel like you're seeing progress. And so with all these changes coming into season 3 and 4, and of course subsequent seasons moving forward, I'm really hoping that these changes will make Overwatch 2 that much greater as a hero shooter. Now, my closing thoughts, and this is my hot take, but what I would actually want to see, and this is just, again, this is my hot take, but when it comes to competitive play, my hot take for this, and this kind of pertains to fighting games. So in fighting games, you would have a system where you as the player, you would pick a player, you pick a character, like let's say you pick Ken, and you take Ken in the rank, and your Ken's rank is gold, but then suddenly you decide to go to Ryu. Now Ryu is not gold, because they're two different ranks. So your Ken is gold, let's say gold 4, but then you want to switch off to Ryu and now you're bronze. So you have to go back from bronze and level up. So my hot take for competitive, and this is like a future thing, don't worry about my rank right now. I really didn't take that much rank that seriously this season. But let's say, for example, you pick like a tank role, right? And this to me would avoid like maybe counterplay. But let's say you click on tank, right? The moment you click on tank role, it'll take you to the character select screen where you can pick your tank. So let's say you pick Sigma or you pick Diva. You're locked into that character as you go into the game. And so you're ranking up into your character. So your character locked as you rank up. So your Diva will now go from, let's say, bronze 5, and you'll go to like, let's say, top 500. So what happens now is when you go into a game with another character, let's say you're Diva, right? And your Diva's top 500, and for whatever reason you get frustrated in game and you come out of your character. Let's say you swap to Winston, but your Winston is a bronze level Winston. What will happen is now your players on the team, your team will then see that you swap to Winston, but it'll show an icon showing that your Winston's bronze. So people can then see, hey, why are you switching to Winston? Like you're a bronze level Winston. That means you're not good with this character yet. So I think what that would do is it would incentivize players to like play one character, and it would avoid that counterpicking type of mentality, because now you're locked to a specific character. You can't swap out, and if you do, your team is going to see that, and therefore it'll basically force you to not do that, because it's basically trolling, and you're basically throwing the game because you're playing a character that you're not confident with, you're not comfortable with it, you're not high enough rank with that character. So that was my hot take. I just want to throw it out there. I know it's just random, but I'm thinking like if they ever do think about this, I'm hoping that they do add a system in where they have like a character specific ranking. So therefore you're taking one character up to that rank, and then if you want to swap off characters, you're going to have to take that new character up the ranking as well. But anyway, just my brainstorming mentality just popped out. But in any case, I hope you do enjoy the updates moving forward for Overwatch 2. I, for one, am excited for it. I'm looking forward to what they're going to do with the game moving forward. And so what are your thoughts? What do you want to see in Overwatch 2 as far as changes for ranked? Who's your main, and what would you like to see? All that being said, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you folks in the next video. Take care and peace out.